Alrighty, welcome back to episode 1799 and Doubleshot number 1693. The very next episode is the 18th episode of the series. Excuse me. Now, in the case of basically, come on, thank you. Now, we're doing digital trade again, and we're kind of do some individuals for the next review. Now, this first one discussing is going to be Superman. Come on, stop it, please. Thank you. Really, these stupid ads. Anyways, here we go. Superman, the Man of Steel, Volume 2. Yep. Yeah, this is the second printing of the Superman Man of Steel series. Yeah, originally this was almost like a 10 volume trade series that went to a certain point. I have reviewed volume 1 and 9 of this series. Yes, I have. As for now, the thing with these particular titles is that it's basically the Superman stories that came out just after Crisis on Infinite Earths. Yep. That is simply put the purpose of these things. Mm-hmm. And they only produced at least 9 volumes. And you're thinking, really? Only 9? Yes, seriously. They only put out 9 of these volumes. And this is the new printing of this stuff. Oh yeah, it is. It's a brand new printing of these books. Now, the first book, I didn't mention before, because I forgot to mention it. The first volume is simply put the first 3 trays combined into one. Yep. And this book is basically volumes 4 and 5 combined into one. And you're scratching really? It is? Yeah, seriously. This book contains these following issues of the 3 series of Superman, Action Comics, and Avengers. And we have, they also contain some one other book here. This is a crossover here. We have Superman, Volume 2, issues 5 through 11. I'm not really sure why I said 5, but we'll do. Action Comics, 588 to 593. Avengers of Superman, 429 to 435. Lead Superheroes, I believe this is Volume 4, if I'm not mistaken. Year 3 or 4 of Legion of Superheroes. I believe it is because it's part of a crossover they had with Superman at this point in time. Mm-hmm. Yes, it was a crossover. It was basically the way a crossover is between, this book, Action Comics, and, Superman, obviously. And these issues were originally collected some of these issues anyways, were collected from basically Man of Steel Volume 4. Yes. Now, Paul Levitz writes the lead superheroes book. And then you're probably thinking, why is Paul Levitz basically, who is this guy Paul Levitz? Now, a little info about Paul Levitz. He is pretty much the guy responsible for a lot of classic lead superhero stories. I mean, he's been writing the characters on and off since the early 1970s. The last time I officially wrote them was actually for the New 52 run for Lead Superhero. That's actually one of his runs he did. He did stop at the 90s. He basically did for the 70s, the 80s, where he just takes some occasional breaks, like when Jerry Conway came on the book for a certain period of time as the writer. But Paul Levitz was usually the main writer for the book. But he would do it on and off, but usually take long breaks between his stuff. And this is one of the things he did. Now, of course, also John Byrne basically wrote Superman in Action Comics. Marv Wolfman did Avengers Superman. John Byrne did the main artwork for the main Superman book. Jerry Wood did Avengers Superman. As for the Action Comics issues, it basically swapped between Eric Larson and Greg LaRocca. Yes. Now, the first book we have in here is, of course, Superman, Volume 2, Number 5. Which, this was originally printed in volume, I believe it was it 4, I think it was? No, it was originally published in Volume 3. Yeah, it's weird, though, the fact they started out with this. Basically, it's kind of like you recollect like 2.5 issues. Yeah, this is basically the best way to describe this issue. It's like Superman supposedly go on an archaeological dig, and he apparently ends up in a place where apparently he thinks with Lois, but it's actually a completely different woman who is not Lois. And the book starts out with him encountering Wonder Woman, like he battles these robots, and it looks like he basically just takes her hand. And the way the artwork is the way John Byrne draws it, it's almost implying that this basically was leading to Wonder Woman and Superman having sex in the 80s, despite the fact he has a thing for Lois. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, he's rough again for some reason. So he heads out, scruffy looking, participating in archaeological. It's basically mostly a standalone issue. It is not. It does kind of get followed up with the very next issue. Mostly, yeah, it's just a quick little 2-parter, and I think that's it. Because Avengers Superman issue has nothing to do with this at all. Yeah, it's simply put, basically of Superman saving a plane from crashing. And fight this person's concussion. Yes, you name a villain after somebody gets involving their head. I am talking very serious about this because people have gotten concussions over the years. Now, if you probably are going to be asking this in the comments below, do I know anybody who's suffered through a concussion? Or have I personally had a concussion? No. I don't. I know of famous people who've had concussions, but personally, people who I know, nobody I know of ever suffered through a concussion before, and I personally never had them before. So I'm going to move on from that. It's mostly like a standalone like Christmas issue. You have him with a woman who is not Lois. By the way, I'm saying not Lois because this is before they got married. This is around the mid-90s. So, hangs out with her, does Superman stuff. And then, of course, next issue is going to take out the Ferris and 5. And then we have issue 588, which is a crossover with Hawkman. Yes, it's a crossover with Hawkman. Believe it or not. Yes, and here's the weird thing about this. Like, you get to this issue and you're wondering, what the heck is going on here? Why the heck are we basically at part 2 of this story? Yeah, I thought this is kind of weird. Like, you read this and you're like, okay, you put this issue in here and you don't have part 1? Yeah, I think this trade made a goof. Yes. Oh, by the way, there was a Hawkman title published in the 80s. It didn't last very long, surprisingly. I think it lasted for about 17 issues. Yeah, it was a pretty short-lived volume. Was it bad? No. Though they did kind of confirm this whole thing took place in Earth 85, this entire volume, which was kind of interesting to say the least. Yeah, it's almost like anything came out just after the crisis, basically. That's not clearly New Earth. Basically, this entire volume is like that, which is strange, to say the least, despite the fact there is some good stuff here. Yes. Now, the Superman appearance issue is legit Superman. Hawkman, well, it's basically the best way to describe this run is that this is basically the Earth 1 Hawkman who's still active post-crisis. Now, I think in the case of the trade itself, this trade should have included the Hawkman issue. Because that led to this thing. And for some reason, it's not here. Yes, though this issue does lead to something else. Yeah, this is part 2 of a story that continues in the in issue 11. Yeah. Yeah, Yeah, it's basically Shuttle War type of stuff. Now, they do have this Byleth, who's basically a notorious Hawkman villain. Does he appear in this book? Oh, heck yes, he does. Mm-hmm. Yes, he has been a recurring Hawkman villain since the 1960s. Yeah, and guess who created Byleth? Gardner Fox. Same guy created him. Yeah, it's almost like basically Hawkman they just happened to cross paths. Oh, and by the way, this is the alien Hawkman, not Carter Hall Hawkman. This is Katar Hall, which they've since retconned it later on in the recent stuff, where this was a past version of Hawkman, like someone from the past, and it's kind of weird, but that's basically how Hawkman is. He's weird. But I do enjoy reading the stuff for him. Mm-hmm. Great standalone issue. By the way, the next issue, yeah, it has nothing to do with Hawkman. Nope, Hawkman is one issue. Yes, this is all. Now, in case you're curious though, when did the team up stuff stop for Action Comics? I think it stopped when issue like either was 595 or 596 is when they stopped doing this. Yeah, so after with that, in the very next issue you have Superman team with the Green Lantern Corps, who operates on Earth. Okay, there is an explanation for this. The reason why they operated it because after Crossover, the Guardians decided to explore the universe. So Hal Jordan took the remains of the Green Lantern Corps and established base them on Earth. This is basically converted to Green Lantern Corps of Earth. Basically, whoever remained basically appeared in the book. And also, the Green Lantern title, which was published at the time, they basically retitled it the Green Lantern Corps issue 201. You could kind of consider basically issue 201 for Green Lantern Corps to 224, which by the way, they actually reflect the name change as part of the official title for the book. And you kind of think of this book as simple, but the first line for Green Lantern. It didn't last very long, lasted only for about 24 issues before being canceled, though they did continue this story in the pages of Action Comics as a feature when the series was published weekly. Yes, weekly. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's just a quick team-up issue. It's good. I appreciate this book, but when I talk about 592, 593, it gets weirder. Oh my gosh, it's John Byrne. What do you expect? Mm-hmm. But this issue was really good. Yes, nothing wrong with it. Just a great team-up issue. And then you have, in the page of Superman, I believe this is the first appearance of the character Rampage. Yes, I believe it is. That it was just basically after this Action Comics issue. I believe it was. Issue 7, I believe, was the first appearance of Rampage. Was it? Yes. Yeah, this is the first appearance of Rampage. Rampage was around for a long time. He's basically someone with Mutant by Star Labs, and this character was around from this point up until issue. Her last official appearance to date was in this, of course, was the post-crisis version of the character, 686 vs. Superman. During the War Without Krypton stuff, that was the last anybody saw Rampage. And you might think, has she appeared in other timelines, like post-crisis, like New 52? Yes, except she was new very much. She even popped up in the comics version of Supergirl. Yep, she did. Now, the original version of the character has sort of this chainmail look to her. And you can kind of think of her as basically a beefed up version of Red Sonja. That's the best way to describe her. And if you're curious though, what she looked like in her debut appearance, here she is. Though people could also mistake her based on her skin color as being a beefed up version of Starfire. Yeah, and she wore this attire sometimes. Though later she did basically put on an actual jumpsuit. And yeah, brand new villain for Superman, and very recognizable villain. And she's one of the very few original villains John Byrne introduced during his time writing Superman Action Comics. Yeah, one of the very few. And then we have in Avengers Superman 430, it's simply Superman in a 5-on-1 handicap match where he fights the Fearsome Five. Yeah, where he's fighting Gizmo, Monmouth, Shimmer. So you might think, okay, well, wasn't the Fearsome Five led by Dr. Light this period of time? Yes, Dr. Light. The guy who's literally a joke character. No, seriously, he's a literal joke. They actually added, besides Gizmo, Monmouth, and Shimmer, they did add two new members, Douche and Charger. Yes, who only appear just for, I believe, just these two, this issue here, and 435, that's Deuce, basically him. As for Charger, kind of the same thing. Just these two appearances. It's 430, 435, and that is it. Which is kind of interesting. Yes. And you're probably thinking, why the heck is the Fearsome Five showing pages in a book called Avengers Superman? Marv Wolfman created them. Yeah. And this is simply just a standalone, mostly just a standalone issue-ish. They do return a little bit later, but not at this point. They appear in this issue here. And then you have Suma team up with the Metal Men, who take out freaking Kamiko. Yep. Why not? Why not? Kind of makes sense. Excuse me. The fun fact about the Metal Men, like, here's the thing about them. Do you know who created them? Like, okay, who created the Metal Men? Well, they were created by Robert Kaniger and Ross Audru. Yes. You were thinking, weren't they created by Jack Kirby? No, Kirby had nothing to do with these characters. Nope, it's Robert Kaniger. Who usually, when we look at this guy's work, he usually does a lot of war comics. That's simple what Robert Kaniger is. And it's interesting to throw in Chemical because he's a Metal Man villain. He's practically their only one they fight a lot, so why not? And then you have the start of the crossover between Legion of Superheroes and Superman Action Comics. Basically, you can kind of think of this story here as the first official post-crisis story. This is, well, the first time that he kind of met the lead superheroes, though it was later retcon in their book. This took place all at Earth 35. This whole adventure with the lead superheroes. And it's great. I love it. It's basically Superman meeting Superboy, well, another version of him. Yep. It starts with Legion of Superheroes number 37. And it continues in Superman. Yeah, it continues in Superman. Number 8 continues in 591, which is also part of the very same story. Yeah. It's called Superman Elite Superheroes. It's a 4-part story that concludes in Late Superheroes, Volume 38. Yeah, that's where it concludes. And I gotta say, the cover artwork, which is by Bill Sienkiewicz, is gorgeous. I love his artwork for this book. Mm-hmm. And you probably think, okay, what's next? What's after this this Superman lead superhero story? It's like, technically, in a way, this 4-parter is the best way to describe it. It's the first post-crisis meeting of Superman and lead superheroes, which you would think this had a book like Adventure Comics, but that book was published this period of time. It wasn't actually. He's just several years prior to this. So, oh, here's the Bill Sienkiewicz cover. Really good. Love these covers. I think he did cover artwork for a lot of, pretty much like all the covers of this volume. It's like really good artwork. Mm-hmm. Everybody thinking, okay, after this story with lead superheroes, like, what happens next? Well, you have Superman basically crushing a gun and a Christmas story, and a book takes on a guy called Dr. Stratos. No, seriously. That's what he takes on here. It's just a standalone issue. He appears as this one story here, and that is it. Oh, by the way, it's a story done by Eric Larson. Yeah, it's like, with the exception of Cat Grant and Lois Lane and Superman, this is most like a lot of characters who appear in this one issue of Adventures of Superman. It's mostly a forgettable issue. I mean, you're like, Dr. Stratos, who the heck is this guy? He's just some weird guy who fights Superman for one issue. They probably felt like basically I think Marvel would just feel like doing this issue because he just wanted something standalone, not have Superman take characters he created and have to make him wipe the floor with him. Yeah. Issue 9 takes in the Joker for the first time. And this is well over a decade before the Emperor Joker storyline. Yep, which, by the way, is a Superman story that involves the Joker. Yeah. Interesting idea, the fact John Byrne throw in Joker. Of course, I believe this all same period of time also popped up in Annual for Justice League International. I believe popped up in the first annual I think it was either first or second annual for Justice League International. Yep. And then you have in issue 432 for Adventures of Superman. Yeah, this is about the gang war story. Yep. Which starts in this very issue. And you were thinking, wait, when does it conclude? Well, it doesn't conclude until like 435. Yeah. I think it does. No, it's 434. That's when they conclude their story. Yeah. So, yeah, it's a gang war story that involves Lex Luthor for reasons. It's not a bad story per se. Yeah, then we cut straight to, like, by far the weirdest story ever told by John Byrne. It's Action Comics 592 to 593. This is the two-part that introduced the character Sleaze, who popped up once after this in the issue of Countdown, and that was it for the character. Yes, here's the cover for it. The best way to describe this story is Sleaze brainwashed Big Barda to dance, and then later on, brainwashed Superman to have him and Big Barda make a porno. No, seriously, that is the gist of the story. And you're probably thinking, does Big Barda's awesome husband, Scott Free, aka Mr. Miracle, does he find out about this? Oh, yes, he does. How does he find out about this? From frickin' Darkseid, who sits on his frickin' chair. Yes, because it's a recurring joke with Darkseid. Because he never sits a lot, he stands a lot. It is hilarious. It's a goofy story that Link Carr himself basically did a two-parter years ago. I do recommend checking out because it is hilarious the way he does this. And yeah. Oh, by the way, Link Carr even poked fun of her weapon, the Mega Rod, her signature weapon that Jack Kirby created for her. Yep. We also have people getting old. That's a side thing, per se. Which, by the way, is not resolved. Oh, look. It's the ants. Link Carr showed off his review. I'm not going to detail anything really new about this two-part because Link Carr basically detailed the heck out of this thing. Yeah. Superman and my wife? What? Yes, they do make out in this story, which they do recognize. Yeah. And plus, I love the fact that post-crisis, nobody changed their costumes, unlike New 52, which they did. And if you're curious, though, post-crisis, did Mr. Miracle's costume ever change post-Flashpoint? The answer is no. They did not change him at all. It's the same look. Darkseid, they clearly changed from the awesome Jack Kirby look, which he's had for decades, to this weird look where he basically obsessed with a mega symbol way too much. Yeah, it is by far one of the most baffling things related to John Byrne's run. And it's a two-parter that's completely forgotten about. Yes, a side fact, it did use a denizen of Apocalypse in this two-parter. It's like, he does appear again. Then we jump to issue 10 of Superman, where Superman becomes a menace to society. Yeah, where basically his X-ray vision is going completely out of control. Where he uses X-rays and he looks, oh crap, he sees skeletons. And then obviously he uses X-ray and turns around again and he sees everybody naked, including Cat Grant. And glass start melting. It's a weird issue. Yeah. Yeah, eventually it's all done by Lex to basically mess with Superman's head. Yeah, that was basically. Oh, by the way, his driver, his name is Kathia, not Mercy Graves, like with Superman in the series. She was actually introduced after the series came on the air. They introduced her in an issue of in the Batman comics of all things, a Superman character who pages of Batman, and they retconned to be an Amazon. Yeah, she was introduced toward the aftermath of No Man's Land. One of two characters from DC Animated Universe from the 90s who were introduced in that universe post No Man's Land. The other one was Harley Quinn. Yep. And back to Gang War stuff. Yes, a tragedy in 5 acts. Yeah, a really interesting issue. Yeah, it's just the Gang War stuff. It's only a 4-parter. Yeah. And then issue 11 where Batman takes on Mixie Mixerplick. First time, one of the few times take on him. Post-crisis. Yeah, one of the few times because Mixie didn't appear very much. I think the last time physically appeared in the comics was Superman Reborn. Yeah. Great story, by the way. Check it out. Yeah, I think it's a combination of Peter Tomasi and Dan Jurgens doing a really excellent story. Basically, fixing some stuff related to Superman people didn't like. Yep. So, yeah, Gangbuster. Yeah, and this whole crime war thing does take up pretty much the rest of this trade. Yeah, then we have 535, which has the one-off return of the Fearsome Five in the Avengers Superman story, which also has the last appearance of Charger and Deuce. Yep. Yeah, the food isn't here, probably just cause. And we have them transforming into Wonder Woman. Yeah. And then we have the book in there. Yep, with 535. Yes, and if you're curious though, did Man of Steel Volume 5, the end with that number? Yes, it did. So pretty much kind of what this book did. It basically collected the entirety of Volumes 4 and 5, plus it basically adapted it pretty much put into the trade here. They pretty much, in a way, put like the second half of Volume 3 of the original trade of Superman, of the Superman and Steel trades. Yep, that's simply what it did. It's an excellent book. I do recommend checking it out. People hate the Superman, we give the book a 9.5 out of 10. It's an excellent set of stories. Nothing really bad here per se. The Doctor story is kind of different what it is. But probably by far the most goofiest story of all of it is 592, 593, with the whole thing with Sleaze and Big Bard and Mr. Miracle. But by far the only original character who makes a debut in these issues is Rampage. A character who is still around to this very day. Who, very good character. Alright, next up it is Tales of the Super Pets. All stories from the Silver Age of Comics. This book collects material from Action Comics 261, 266, 277, 292, and 293. Adventure Comics 210, 256, 293, 322, 364. Batman 125, Superboy 76, Superman 176, and Wonder Woman number 23. Yes, the Silver Age stuff. Mostly anyways, a little bit of Golden Age stuff too. These are all select stories from these books. Yep, select stories. These are your writers for these issues. We have Rar Benson, Otto Bender, Leo DeForman, Bill Finger, Edmund Hamilton, William Moulton Marston, he writes a one-on-one issue, Jim Shooter, one of his early books, and Jerry Siegel. The artwork's on Pete Castelli, John Forti, Roman Ferdia, Kurt Swan, Harry G. Peter, yes, seriously guys, his name is Peter, George Papp, and Jim Mooney. Yes. Now, who does these books? Jerry Siegel does the Action Comics story. Otto Bender does the Superboy story. The first two, anyway, for Action Comics. The 292 of Jim Leo Darford does basically 293 as well. Bill Finger obviously does Batman because he's a co-creator of Batman. Yeah, William Marston does the one-on-one issue. We have Avenger Comics 256, which is basically an Aquaman story. Yes, an Aquaman story. That's done by Robert Benson. Jerry Siegel returns to Action Comics 266. Jerry Siegel also does Avengers Comics 293. 322 is Edward Hamilton. Leo the Former does Superman 176. And the final issue is done by Jim Shooter, one of his earliest stories he ever did for comics. Yeah, and the first story is simply Streaky the Cat versus Crypto the Superdog. Yep. Yeah, it's a really fun story, and it's all about the super pets. That's simply what it is. And we have a story featuring Streaky the Cat for a Supergirl story. Yes, a Supergirl story. And then we have Superboy, who basically, this is actually his story from the pages of Avenger Comics. This is before the lead superhero showed up, where first we have a quick nod to Action Comics #1 with him with the green car. Yes. This kind of in a way is probably the first chronological appearance of Crypto the Superdog. Though he did look a little different. Look at here, he's like he doesn't have the white stuff here. Yes, he looks like a normal dog, though later on in like post Flashpoint they made basically like a wolf. Interesting story here. Then we have the Super Monkey. Yes, a Super Monkey. It's a Silver Age. What do you expect? Weird issue. No much to say about it. Then we have the Super Steed of Steel. Basically, we have a story focused on Supergirl's horse, who actually is a shapeshifter who can transform into a human, and in the human form, he's in love with Supergirl, which he, as far as I can tell, never told in the Silver Age. Nope, never did. And this is another Supergirl story. Yep. And then we have the origin of the Super Horse from Action Comics 293. Yep. Now, Secret Life of Bat-Hound. This is from the Batman story. Yeah, I'm not sure why they threw in Bat-Hound here for why I threw his story. Probably because basically Bat-Hound is basically a pet of a superhero, so they figured out, why the heck not? Yep. We had a quick guest appearance here by the original Batwoman, Catherine Kane, excuse me. Well, really, I'm Kathy Webb. And this Wonder Woman story, this actually is a story that came in 1947. This is from the Golden Age of comics. Yeah, the only story that came on the Golden Age here. Oh yeah, and here's something though. One of the rare covers that doesn't depict Super Wonder Woman bondage. Yes. Her creator loved doing that. If you look at any early Wonder Woman comic, she's always like that. And it's a full 52-page story of her riding her kangaroo in a flashback. The ordeal of Aquaman. You might think, okay, this is talking about his octopus, just basically Aquaman on dry land. This kind of in ways the first time he meets his octopus Topo. And then we have sort of a who's better, Supergirl Streaky or Superman Crypto. And Supergirl story. Because of course it is. Yep. It's a good story. And we finally move into some lead superhero stuff. This is the Jim Shooter story. Where you have potentially lead superhero pets basically become part of like their own separate thing. Where like they have their own separate group. Yeah, there's basically the last few stories is simply them being sort of a league. And then Then basically the last story in here is simply put basically going back to the past and their memory being wiped. Yeah. Great set of stories this book. 10 out of 10. Really good. Alright. That's going to be it for this particular review. Next one's going to be my 1800 episode. I'm just going to go ahead and do it. This is Rogue Ladies again, okay? Next video. Bye.